I meant to do this a little bit earlier, and also I just somehow screwed up my camera setting. Um, but took a bit of a nap after work and skating. Um, did do one of these, or I did a little short this morning, but I figured I'd do another video tonight. Um, it's midnight, so it's technically the 14th, but I'm going to count this as the 13th. Making some packs. Hungry today. Um, I think that November 13th is always difficult. This is a difficult week. You're in New York, which September 11th is always kind of a big thing, um, and kind of bringing down the mood a little bit. Um, Definitely, as the years have gone on, I've seen more people dealing with it in a humorous way. Um, Not making jokes so much, but a little less seriousness, I guess. It has been 23 years, so I guess it makes sense that it would be not as fresh for most people. Um, for me, 13th is a little bit rougher because anniversary of my dad passing away, about 11 years ago yesterday. Some sort of cancer. I think it was lymph node cancer, but I never really got a full answer. Really liked my dad. Um, Obviously loved him, but I thought he was a great guy. Definitely many times that I wish I could have talked to him since then. Um, it's a little sad in my family. We don't really talk about him very much. I don't really talk to my family that much in general. Um, Not necessarily because I don't like them or anything. I talk to my mom like once a week at least, but we're just not very alike. There's not a lot I feel um, needs to be said. I have two younger brothers. One of them is fairly busy. He's a state trooper. He has two kids. And for a normal life, um, certainly in comparison to what I have going on, and good for him. I'm happy for him. I'm jealous sometimes. I wish I had some of that stability. But then I have a youngest brother who also just got married and has a kid on the way. Although not nearly as put together, I guess, um, as the other one. Um, but yeah, we don't really share a lot of the same interests or anything, enough so that we could really talk about it. And the youngest one is a little bit too conspiracy brain for me to really carry on too many conversations with, anyways. So one's a little too normy, one's a little too freaky to me to, um, just I guess talk to once a week. I guess maybe I should just do that more. I don't know, um, but when I do, there's just not much time that we talk about. So, he was a pretty good guy. He was a teacher, um, Eagle Scout, ran the scouting program when I was growing up. Um, I did not go through Boy Scouts. I did the Cub Scouts. I think the sales pitch for the Boy Scouts or signing up for the Boy Scouts had a bunch of stuff that kind of sounded fun, but um, I don't know. I think it was the digging a camp in a snowbank or whatever, and I was like, that doesn't actually sound fun. It seems cool now, but at the time I was like, I don't know. And um, in upstate New York, it wasn't a great thing for I think a lot of the Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts things is fun because it's an escape from your family. But when your dad is one of the like Cub Scout leaders or Boy Scout leaders or whatever, you're not getting away from. Um, your family then they will be with your friends. You're watching all of your friends do the horseplay and stuff that you're not supposed to do during meetings, and you have to be good. And you're not really part of the group because you don't want to. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of get ostracized a little bit. So, but is what it is. Um, as far as a teacher, I know he's a really good teacher. Um, Certainly credit him with my desire to learn things still, even as I get older. And I think my ability to learn um, new things, I don't think that I'm particularly smart. I think that I just got lucky to have a very good teacher when I was young. It showed me how to learn things. If that makes sense, how to kind of break things down to fundamentals. Turn that off, and to try to understand the whys of things, so that you can understand why something's done, and then make changes from there. Um, so happy for that. Had a lot of friends who um, had him as a teacher. He didn't teach at the school that I went to, but I did end up hanging out with a lot of the kids that went to the school that he did teach at, um, and they all saw him as honestly one of the better teachers that they had, if not the best. I think it was one of those very early teachers that kind of noticed that or recognized that, um, and I'm sure that this was something in teaching long before him, but the idea that like the kids that were the biggest troublemakers and having the worst time um, were not bad kids. They were just they were having trouble. There was something that was going on at home, or something else that was going on, and what these kids really needed was not discipline, but a little bit more attention, recognition, understanding, and I definitely have friends who have told me how they were going down a rough part of life until my dad came in and um, gave them a lot of those things. And he would go to the teachers the year beforehand and ask them like, which were your kind of your troublemakers? I'll send them to my class. Like, I think it's weird that normally I don't. Well, I mean, I think about them often, but I will normally the two times that are really big that aren't like a holiday or something like that are his birthday and the 13th, the day yesterday, I guess, or today, depending on how you want to look at it at times. Um, but normally I'll think about these things the days beforehand and even the days afterhand. But for some reason, on the day, on his birthday, or on the day he died, um, I will kind of blank on those things. I won't think about them until much later or the next day, even though I've been thinking about them the day or thinking about the days leading up to it. Um, yeah, it was also a hard time for me when he passed away. I'd only been living down this city for like I think like a year or two. Um, just had a new job that I had started maybe the year earlier, and I'd gone from a delivery driver to the general manager of a pizza place, and I was very proud of myself for that. Um, and then found out that my dad was sick, and they gave him about 6 weeks, which was pretty spot on. He lasted 6 weeks, which was good. It was really nice. It gave him a lot of time to um, say his goodbyes. There wasn't a day that I went up there that there weren't people that stopped by the house to visit with him, or the hospital if he was in the hospital. Um, Students, friends, people in the town, people from church, family members, just constantly just flowing through the door. Um, and yeah, I would, for those 6 weeks, take a lot, like when I was working the manager job. I would drive upstate for 3 or 4 days, come back down for 3 or 4 days, drive back up there for 3 or 4 days. Mostly down here for 4 days, up there for 3 days. I think there was at least once where I was driving down and I drove back up because he went from just getting out of the hospital and home to back to the hospital. Um, I was worried about him. Um, about 2 weeks into it, the place that I was at just closed down. One night, the owner came in and was like, "Listen, I gotta shut the place down. It's not making enough money." He told me that I've been doing a good job and it wasn't my fault, but that that all of the time before that, when it had not been profitable, had just been too much, and now it was too late. But that did put me in a really difficult position, and I think that looking back, I kind of wish I'd just gone back upstate then. Um, it probably would have been better for me to spend even more time, I guess, before I passed away with him, rather than what was happening, which was me coming down here and still trying to find a job. Um, I think it was actually one of the shittier experiences that I had working in the pizza industry down here. When I found a job for a guy that had a bunch of places around the Lower East Side. His name was Yaki or Hockey. Um, had all these pictures up of like him throwing the dough around and stuff. He's doing competitions or something. He was supposed to be a big name in the pizza world. I don't know. But I worked for him for a little bit, for about a week or two. I remember I did one day at one of his spots when it was like the busiest and they had call outs and they were very happy. Um, and then I don't know. Maybe it was my second week that I was there is when my dad passed away. I was fortunate enough to be up there. My mom and I got to hold his hand. They just kind of took him off the life support stuff. He was conscious. It wasn't like he was like completely out of it. But they told us they were like, he's like, you can try to keep him alive, but he's not living anymore, kind of deals. He's just kind of holding on for us to continue doing treatment. Um, and, you know, the machines are doing most of the breathing and stuff like that. So, and it was. I think that by the time they found it, it had spread to so much of him that there wasn't enough to cut out and leave him behind. Uh, so, they just went, we're going to take him off the life support stuff then. And my mom and I held his hand, and they gave him a shot of morphine, and gone. Um, Came back down to the city, worked that next week, told not the owner, not Hockey, but his assistant, which I don't remember the guy's name now. God, I want to say it was like Richard or something like that. Um, hey, like I need next week off, a couple of days next week off, to go to my dad's funeral. He goes, okay, sure. So I work in a couple of days, and then I go have a couple of days off and go upstate to my dad's funeral, and come back down, and they don't schedule me for any more hours. And it wasn't until the next year when I responded to another ad for a pizza maker, and it was Hockey, and I was like, you didn't schedule me any more hours. What happened? And he told me that his assistant had told him that I kept asking for time off, so I wasn't very reliable. So I had worked for this guy, done a really good job, and then when I asked to go for time off to go to my fucking father's funeral, um, he told the owner that I was unreliable. Uh, that's why I really hate how so much business is run in this country. But I do think that it makes me a little sad that my family doesn't talk more about my dad. When I am up there, when I do talk to them, this is kind of the second year that I've called my mom on the day, and um, it hasn't even been brought up. Um, no, I don't bring it up with her, um, but also she doesn't mention it, and there's kind of that idea of there being two deaths that you go through. One die, and the next when people stop talking about you. And I mean, I don't have any worry that no one will talk about my dad. Is that he was a really good teacher. There's not many people that tell stories about him, about people's lives. Um, I do wish that my family talked a little bit more about him, though. At least with me. And I don't talk to my family that often about a lot of stuff, so that's not necessarily something that I fault them for or think is their fault or anything. It just is what it is, kind of, fortunately. So, well, on a more positive note, less somber, um, made it to the gym again today. So, with the exception of Tuesday, I've made it to the gym Monday through Friday now. I have a really good routine down that I can even alter a little bit. So it's pretty adaptable. Um, can I bring it up real fast? I guess I could. Yeah, there we go. Okay, let me just do this. So, see what I got going on right here? I already did this part, but you'll see like that disappears, and now that disappears. I'm able to go in and I've already obviously fixed it up, but I added. Um, I still need to edit some of this part, but you can see like this weight and reps is from the previous week, and that way I can track it. It's a little like it just adds on from this, which just didn't have the reps, but that should give me a good idea of my progress. So. Looking forward to that. I have to fix around, as you can see, my Tuesday. I had to take all of those exercises and move them down. So instead of doing 5 here, I did 6, and then I did 7, and I think I got 8. Did I? Yeah, I got 8 done this morning. Um, that was a lot. And I got up late. Or I guess later than I thought. I think I might have to start working earlier next week, which I'm kind of looking forward to. Especially now that it's getting darker sooner, it would be nice to get out at 4 o'clock or so. I still have some time to skateboard because I've been skateboarding so well. I figured out Smith grinds. I finally figured out Smith grinds. Also, I want to start doing skateboard trick tips, but a little bit different. And I'm not sure. I feel like I might actually just be ripping off an idea that somebody's already doing. In fact, the name would even be close. Um, I guess I'd have to like check out his channel more. Not that there's anything like there's or not millions, but there's I'm sure dozens of skateboard trick tips and stuff like that. Um, there's a guy that has skateboard IQ or skate IQ on Instagram, and it's a bunch of tricks and tips on skateboarding and like ways that you should kind of think of it and stuff. And especially working out, you kind of start getting a lot of different like cues, like what do you want to work on. And I was like, well, that's kind of how I think of the skateboard a lot, you know. Um, Normally, when you get trick tips, it's like here's how you kick flip, and it's like well, you do an ollie and you side, and there will be like some part that um, people think about more. That will be that they'll be like, oh, we'll focus on this. Um, but I've been working more on all of the different little cues that you want to work on, like foot placement, or how you want your knee to move, or at what point, or how you or what you want to think about when you're doing the trick, because that can ultimately be just as important than the actual trick. Sometimes just like that, like the last week I've seen a huge improvement with my skating, especially my flip tricks and things, because for a while I thought of it board to like bring the board up. Do it. I'm still moving my feet in similar ways, but I think of it trying to pull the board up to myself so that when I flick my foot down, it's going upwards. So it's like this kind of a thing. Um, and the board can, I guess, rotate in an upward motion as opposed to kicking it down. And just thinking of it that way, that like I want to flip the board with my feet as opposed to ollie and kick the board and land on it as I'm coming down or whatever, has really changed the way that I skate and do my flip tricks and made them a lot easier and a lot more comfortable and easier to commit to. Um, by doing that, you focus much more on the very beginning of the trick, which is really the important part. As long as you have all that done correctly, the trick should be pretty easy. And this way, you know, as you're going upwards, is the trick going to work out? As opposed to as you're coming down, if the board's still flipping or whatever else, and that's not a great feeling to have. So that's been great. And so for the Smith grind, if you are having a hard time, if you're watching this and you have a hard time with Smith grinds as I had, I'm finding that it's like doing a 50-50. Do I have my little skateboard here? Anyways, but when you, God, I wish I had like an actual thing to use in my phone. So like when you go to do a 50-50 on something, you can jump from the side and you can land with the nose on and set the thing down, set the tail down. You can land and do both, or you can jump and kind of like land. And I think that the deal for the Smith grind is you want to do the airplane. You want to pop, land, land, and then drop. Because all of a sudden doing that, I was locking into it, and I was able to hold it. I was able to start popping out of it very consistently. Like it made the trick click. And all of a sudden it went from something that I've been able to do a couple of Smith grinds before, but I never really felt like I was understanding what I was doing that was making it work. There have been many more times where I've just been completely frustrated by the fact that I just couldn't do it right. I just couldn't get to it correctly for whatever reason. And so I was constantly running into the board either shooting out in front of me, like going up into a 5-0 and shooting out, which is scary. And I had a few, not great falls that could have been a lot worse from those. And, or the more common thing would be jump into it and it just wouldn't grind at all. So I would just get thrown forward.
And this kind of solves both of those because you don't have your weight back like a 5.0, even though you're landing back trucks first. Your weight's not that way. It's just kind of a boom, boom type feel. And then when you can just kind of get that boom, boom to the side, I mean, sometimes you do Smith grinds when you're trying to learn them, and you're like, well, did that really dip? Was it really a Smith grind, or was it just kind of like the front truck was off to the side, but either parallel or maybe even like kind of upwards, like maybe not like a 5.0 completely, or a salad grinder, pivot grinder, frontside Susky or whatever, but it's not dipped, like the wheels are right there with the ledge. And these, I was like, no, this is a Smith grind. Like it's pointed down, but it's not pointing down as I'm falling off of it. Like I'm pushing it down with the front foot, and that's really happy with that. Heel flip, same thing. I feel like I figured out the foot, and I really got that for a lot of tricks. I think that I'm also my skateboarding is finally hitting a point where it's benefiting from a lot of the time in the gym that I've been doing, as opposed to being hurt by it. Like there's definitely a point in time where, I mean, for the last couple of weeks, it's just been up until like maybe a week or two ago that my leg exercise days wouldn't really kill my legs. Like I think the last time my legs were really bothering me after a leg day was 2 weeks ago on Friday, when I did that crazy double and worked like 18 hours. Because I started off that morning, or maybe the day yesterday, or the day before it, doing a nice leg day. But at this point, my legs, I feel like are warmed up enough into the workouts, or when I work out, that I can get a good burn in them without it bothering me too much the next day. Thursday when I skated, yesterday when I skated, it was a little sore, but even that wasn't that bad. In fact, yesterday's when I figured out the Smith grind part of things, and that was about as sore as my legs have been. Um, so yeah. Oh. But I think between the creatine that I've now should be at full saturation with, I think I've been taking it for about a month. Um, Speaking of which, do I need to take some tonight? I think I took any this morning. But the added energy that gives, and a little bit of that extra, I don't know if it gives extra strength necessarily, as much as just like the energy in the beginning of the skate session. And then the 2 months of leg curls and leg extensions and squats and deadlifts and calf extensions, like the whole thing, which I put a good deal into. I pick the legs, and I think that I might, obviously, I think I'm starting to feel some benefit from that. Not a huge amount, but I think that this is the month. Well, I mean, every month you're going to see progress and feel better of. So I think that it's nice that I'm still kind of at that point where I am feeling a lot of benefit from it. Eventually, that's going to plateau, and I'm not going to keep growing mass or strength or even getting the same endorphin rush out of the exercise. But that's fine. It would be nice to do another month or two, or see how long I can do going to the gym for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the morning, and getting through these workouts and really getting that into a routine. But even that's going to probably get broken down further into a more realistic training cycle, 3 days a week, doing the full body thing, like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday thing. Just so I can have a little bit more time to myself. It is a little hard to give up an extra, at this point, 10 hours a week to the gym, but still worth it. So, yeah, I am exhausted because it has been a long day, and I didn't get a ton of sleep last night. I watched the
Godzilla Kong movie, which was what I expected it to be. It wasn't terrible. It's just. I know a lot of people will give it a hard time for being so campy, and I think it almost felt more like a kids movie, although they were killing a lot of other creatures in it in some pretty gruesome ways. But I mean, that's kind of how Godzilla franchises always go. Every reboot that they do, it kind of has the same, starts off dark and ominous and creepy, and then kind of gets more campy the more movies they make. Um, I feel like they always start on a good premise that even the nuclear bombings of Japan, uh, catastrophe, so the Shin Godzilla, or like with like Godzilla minus one, going back to the World War II theme, and rebuilding after World War II, um, and dealing with a lot of the ghosts of war. It was a good episode, but you can't you can't do that for a sequel. You know what I mean? Like for a sequel, you gotta be like, well, what's he gonna do? Like walk through more cities? Like, all right, better to have him fight something. So I feel like within a couple of movies, they always kind of turn into a more or less wrestling type deal, which is fine. It's still entertaining. People like it, so. But definitely, a stark contrast between that and the Godzilla minus one. But, oh, I'm so tired. Gonna go look at the restaurant on Sunday. Still need to put some time into that. I can do this. What a crazy year. Um, just so far. It's only been like 9.5 months. So we'll see. We'll see what we can do. All right. Good talk, everyone. Hope y'all have a good week. And yeah, it's now Saturday. Hope you have a good weekend. And again next week. And I will let everyone know how things go. Thanks for watching if you did. And yeah, peace.